Now, as we mentioned, CBS News has teamed up with Twitter for tonight's debate. Throughout the evening here on CBSN, we'll be showing you something really cool. Tweets and real-time data on your screen. And on the bottom of your screen, you'll get to see various trends about how the candidates are performing and which issues are gaining the most attention and traction in the social media sphere. To the right of your screen, you'll get a curated list of tweets from political analysts and viewers like you. To get in on the conversation, tweet us using the hashtag #DemDebate. Now, as you would imagine, most of what's trending on Twitter right now has to do with the Paris terror attacks. Here to talk about that and much more, letting us know what we'll be seeing tonight and how to analyze it, Adam Sharp, Twitter's head of news, government, and elections. Adam, great to have you.
Nice to see you again, Major.
So, the conversation has shifted from an anticipation of a debate about domestic issues, the environment, economy, wage inequality, to national security, foreign policy. What does that portend for tonight? And how do you think it will be measured, or can we measure it on Twitter?
Well, it sets a level of expectation. When we look here at the chart from last night, you can see that moment this campaign changed, at least for now. Going into last night, energy and the environment was the driving issue. Al Gore actually in Paris for a climate conference. But when the headlines on Paris started coming through, foreign affairs, national security for that top box. This is an electorate that is talking about these events, that have gathered as a community online to reflect and react to these events in Paris, and they're expecting the candidates to speak to these events. This is where you're going to see, I think, a transition in conversation tonight from people just talking about all the issues facing Americans to who's going to be a commander-in-chief.
And as that conversation moves, will we be able to find things that are important that the candidates say, or as important, how people react to what the candidates say? Which in the social media sphere do you think, and does your data indicate, matters the most?
It's actually a bit of both. You know, you showed on the graphic a moment ago the interface people are going to see during the debate, where this video will be lifted and you'll see this tweets per minute at the bottom per candidate and some tweets along the right side. These are really the two parts of the equation. The aggregate conversation, measuring the entire conversation as a whole, and then some of those examples. So when you see a big spike in conversation showing that this is a moment people are reacting to, sitting watching the debate on the world's largest couch together and saying, did you see that? I want to talk about that. Now you know that's the moment driving conversation. You look to that right-hand side of the screen for some of the tweets to see what people are saying. In earlier debates, sometimes it's been a funny moment. In those moments, you see it spike, but then it goes back to normal very quickly. People have had their joke, they move on to the next issue. But when it's a meaningful issue, you see that conversation keep going, you see it building, and you see that momentum carry out of the debate into the water cooler conversation that continues on Twitter overnight and into the next morning.
And did we see that in the first debate? And did it matter? And did that data stream tell us about where the campaign actually landed 2 weeks later?
Well, the most tweeted about moment of that first debate was Bernie Sanders saying nobody gives a damn about your emails. That was the moment that we all talked about on TV that night. It was the moment that you saw drive conversation on Twitter that night. It did give some momentum going into the next day. It was that, as they say, water cooler moment that we were reacting to. But the conversation about the candidates had been echoing the polls and going neck and neck there for a while, with Hillary Clinton driving a bit more than half of the conversation, Bernie Sanders about 30-some% of it. It's a different dynamic than we've seen on the Republican side, where we've had more debates to look at, so we have a greater sense of trends, where in the first two debates, we saw clear brackets. People like Donald Trump, Ben Carson at the top of the pile, and then also Rand's at the bottom. As we've had more debates, that has evened out. In the last debate, you had Donald Trump still ahead, and then the other 7 candidates, their shares of the conversation were all within a point or two of each other. So that's a race where you are seeing the conversation now leveling out, and people actually talking about all the candidates and making their choices.
One last thing I want to get to, Adam, quickly. We are in, geographically, the spin room. The spin rooms have been around for a very long time. It is the place where the campaigns after the debate try to put the best face on whatever happened. Some of that is reality. Some of that is faux reality. They're trying to drive a message to protect something their candidate fouled up, perhaps. Now the spin room happens here as the debate goes on. This is sort of the secondary spin room now, isn't it, in all reality?
Absolutely, and in fact, a panel of actual debate negotiators for the two major parties over the last several presidential cycles met at Annenberg Center at University of Pennsylvania and actually came out with a report earlier this year suggesting getting rid of this room altogether because that conversation has now moved to Twitter. That candidates are looking at this the moment they get off stage, because with these numbers that our viewers are now able to watch in real time at the bottom of their screens, they get that immediate pulse of what people are reacting to and what the takeaway is from this debate.
Excellent. Adam Sharp will be doing that all night, bringing you the social media conversation as it happens. This is a second screen experience. We understand that. And what better to have on the second screen than what's actually transpiring across the country on that second screen? That's the added value that CBSN will bring to you throughout the evening, the second Democratic presidential debate.